Hey Facebook, we're live with Sincerely Pete Events, Sarah, at the Whitmore House in Washington, D.C., and we're chatting about what comes after your just said yes moment. We know that around the holidays, January and February, coming up to Valentine's Day, a lot of you all have just gotten engaged or you're about to get engaged. So we want to talk about what comes after that moment. How do you start wedding planning?
Yeah.
And so we invited Sarah here to chat with us. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Can you tell us a little bit about Sincerely Pete Events?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sincerely Pete, I'm the owner and lead planner in Sincerely Pete Events, and we are an equality-minded wedding planning company here in DC, in Alexandria, Maryland, and plan weddings all over the district. I've been in the industry for over 13 years now.
Wow.
So lots of experience doing all kinds of different events. We don't just do LGBTQ weddings. We do weddings for everybody, all inclusive. So we love that. And then I also own Wanderlust Wedding Co, which is a destination wedding planning company that I co-own with a travel agent, and we plan weddings all over the globe.
Perfect.
Yes.
Super exciting.
Yes.
Thank you. So I feel like the big question for brides and grooms to be is, I just got engaged. I know I want to have a wedding, but how do I start?
Yeah.
So how do you advise your clients on what's the first thing you should do when you start planning a wedding?
Wedding planning is so overwhelming. There's so many different things. There's so many different checklists. There's people who are going to be telling you a million different things. And everybody after you get engaged is wondering, when's the date? When's it happening? What are we doing? So the first thing that I always tell everyone to start with is this big picture vision. So we don't want to talk about the pink roses. We don't want to talk about the blue runner, whatever you want, whatever that is. We're talking big picture. Is this a beach wedding? Is this a 300-person bash that goes all night? Is this a 20-person dinner on a rooftop? What does that feel like for you and your partner? So you want to start there. And once you have that idea, then you want to start with your guest list. The guest list dictates the entire rest of your planning process.
Yeah.
So the guest list is going to determine how much money you're going to end up spending. Right? It doesn't matter what your budget is, because things cost a certain amount of money. When you have a certain number of people, that's how much it's going to cost. The number of guests determines what venue you can book. You can't have 300 people at a 75-person venue.
Exactly.
Right? So, we wish sometimes. But, so your guest list is the first place to start. You can have an A list, you can have a B list, you can have a C list, but you need to make sure to get input from all the important people who are making decisions during that process. So you and your partner each get a list, and you have to check in with families as well. So whether that's your parents or your aunts and uncles or whomever that is, it's a good way to look at it. Oh, and a tip about your guest list. So I always say that the couple gets 25% each. Okay. Or you can just be 50% total.
Okay.
And then you can split the other 25% amongst the other family.
Got it.
You don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
I didn't do it that way for my own wedding.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling with how to give those parameters to your family, that's a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
And then after you work on your guest list, we can move on to budget.
Okay.
And we want to talk about realistically, how much money can I see myself spending on a wedding? How much have I saved to spend on my wedding?
Yeah.
And what contributions are being made towards this wedding?
And contributions would be
Contributions would be mom, dad, grandma, best friend, whomever that is your support system and wants to provide money to that, to the cost.
Right.
To the wedding, right?
The wedding cost.
Exactly. Yes.
Cool.
And so after we figure out our budget, we're going to look at a date range, a time of year.
Okay.
And I always recommend a date range as opposed to a specific date, because it just keeps your options really open as you're going to look at vendors and venues specifically.
Yeah. So some people they want to get married on their anniversary.
Yeah.
So instead of saying I want to get married March 8th, say maybe just in March. And that'll help.
For sure. If you're we really want to get married March 8th, great. You can totally make best efforts towards that. But if you keep an open mind and you're anytime at the beginning of March or anytime during March, you're going to just open up the opportunities.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. So once you get your date range, I definitely recommend hiring a planner, not just because I am one, but because I think it's some of the best money that you can spend on your wedding. Have someone that's there to guide you, mediate the process. That's a big part of what I do is mediation between not only the partners and the couple, but also the families.
Exactly.
Right? It's
Yeah.
the first time that you guys are coming together and doing
Exactly.
this, and it's not just the bride, the groom, or whomever it is.
Right.
It's their families coming together too.
Exactly.
So yeah, so do a planner and then go move on, just start booking venues.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So those of you who are just joining us, this is Gay Weddings Live. We're broadcasting from the Whitmore House in downtown Washington, D.C. with Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events. And we're talking about the first steps of wedding planning. So what to do immediately after your just said yes moment. We just talked about some of the 1, 2, 3, which was guest list, budget, and hiring a planner.
Yeah. Great order.
Yes. Perfect. And so speaking of that, there's can be a lot of competition for the best venues, the best planners, the best photographers, especially because wedding season tends to be kind of crunched between the spring and the summer. So a lot of competition. What do you advise couples for how to get a head start on getting their dream wedding team together?
Yeah. So I think that there is this stigma in the wedding industry that if you don't plan your wedding 18 months, a year out, that you're missing out.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you don't have a $100,000 budget, you're missing out.
Right.
And I hate to break it to you and anybody else that's perpetuating this, but it's just not true.
Okay.
Right? There are a ton of people who would love to work with you on your wedding and who are professional and who are fantastic, talented people.
Yeah.
So if there are people who I've been following this photographer on Instagram for years, I have to have them as my wedding photographer.
Yeah.
Reach out, find out what dates they're available in that date range that you've chosen,
Right.
so that you now know when they are available.
Right.
So that you can start making your plans around what that is.
Okay.
So some people do follow people. They are interested in planners or photographers or venues for years before maybe they've even met the person they're going to marry, right? So, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We want you to have the best of everything, but make the steps to find out what dates they're available, so then you can move on and build upon that.
Right.
The other thing that I'll say is, if you live in a smaller town and there are two, amazing photographers, and they're both booked for the date that you have chosen, maybe you've booked a venue, and they're not available, keep in mind that a lot of vendors will travel.
That's true. Yeah.
So you can still find somebody in your budget
Yep.
who's going to be willing to come from a different area to where you are.
Right. Cool. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also a reminder, if anybody has questions for Sarah or for me, please leave them in the comments. We are broadcasting live from the Whitmore House in Washington, D.C. with Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events. And we're talking about what we should do right after your #JustSaidYes moment. And we just talked about kind of the first steps and also how to make sure that you get your dream wedding professionals on board. So this is Gay Wedding. So we did want to talk about, is there anything when you have same-sex couples who are your clients that you tell them that might be a little bit different than something you would tell an opposite-sex couple, or a special consideration?
So I always struggle with that question, as a gay woman myself and having just planned my own wedding. I definitely think that in some instances, and some people are lucky and they don't have what I'll just refer to as baggage, right?
Yep.
But a lot of us have difficult stories about what it was like to come out and problems with our families and friends. And that is definitely a special consideration in this entire planning process. You want to make sure that you have a support system around you for people who are so excited for this process that you're going through for your engagement, for your wedding. And to be sure that, because some of these old feelings can definitely come up during the planning process, right? It's an emotional time. There might be people who who you've been friends with for years, and I had this, and they don't support what you're doing, and unfortunately, then it's time to cut ties. But it's not an easy thing to do. But the one thing that I tell all my couples, and it doesn't matter who you're marrying, is that you should pick what is most important to you. And that's not, the way that I like to phrase it is, what do you value? So you put value in different things. So some people are going to value an amazing band, right? Because it's about the party. I want to dance. I love dancing. I want to have great music.
Yeah.
And that's where you put value. And so that's maybe where a majority of your budget and your energy is going to go.
Right.
And some people are going to value flowers. They're like, this is the only time in my life that I get to throw a party with like crazy elaborate decor and whatever I want to do, right? Or like have a room full of peonies.
Right.
So that's what I want to do. And that's where you're putting your value.
Right.
Other people are going to say, I value the time together with my friends and family, and that's where I want to put my efforts.
Right.
So it has nothing to do with any of these other things. And it doesn't matter what you value most. It's your wedding day.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't,
It's
there's
your
no,
day.
like, there's no right or wrong for that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to feel bad about valuing flowers. Flowers are freaking fantastic, right? And like photography is wonderful. So you just have to be clear on what that is and be able to keep a light on that, because when you get families involved and when you're going through all these other things, sometimes that can get lost in the process.
Exactly. We do have a question from the audience.
Oh, awesome.
So you were talking about budget.
Yes.
Amanda was saying budget is hard. Yes, we feel you, Amanda. Do you have any suggestions to approach your budget with family?
Yeah. So, and this is, so budget. We talk about budget in different kinds of ways. There's traditional ways to look at budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would say in a traditional, I hate using this term.
Right.
You know I hate this. In a traditional wedding, you have a bride paying for the bride's family, paying for the reception.
Yeah.
You have the groom's family paying for the rehearsal dinner.
Right.
And maybe sometimes like a brunch or something like that, right? I actually don't think that's going by the wayside regardless of whether you're an LGBTQ couple or whether you're a same-sex couple or a opposite-sex couple.
Yeah.
And in modern weddings, and the way that I deal with my couples specifically is taking that budget. So mom says she's going to give you $5,000. Your in-laws say they're going to give you $5,000, and you guys have jointly saved $5,000. So now we have $15,000 to go towards the wedding, not to go towards the rehearsal dinner, not to go towards the flowers, right? So you're working with that overall.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's really important. There's a lot of hard conversations around budget, a lot of them, budget and guest list. It's uncomfortable, but I promise once you get through it, it'll be worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that was like, I'm going to leave this person off my guest list and like regretted it later.
Okay.
You're not going to make that choice.
Right.
If you're going to be happy about the people who are there. You're not going to feel regretful about someone who you didn't invite.
Yeah.
I promise you. Feels hard, but I promise you.
Yeah. So when we talk about family contributing to the budget, we also talk about the family members having kind of more of a say in the wedding, right?
So, so that's why with my couples, like my contracts are always signed with the couple.
Okay.
My focus is, what do these two people want?
Right.
And you definitely have moms saying, oh, we have to have a cake cutting.
Yeah.
You always have a cake cutting. There has to be a cake cutting.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, you don't. You don't have to have a cake cutting. But maybe we can serve slices of cake late night so that mom can feel like this tradition that's important to her is being valued.
Right.
So there's ways to tie things in that you can maybe make more about you as a couple that nods to the tradition that family might have an expectation for.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. And that's something planners help with, right? It's kind of being that mediary between.
Oh yeah.
Or like being the bad guy sometimes, almost, right? Yeah. Well, my planner says we don't have to have a cake cutting.
Do you even know how many times my clients have used that? And I will let them use me as an excuse for sure. If it's like something that they're passionate about or something that's important to them. I mean, sometimes it's like, I just don't want to toss the bouquet. Like, I don't want to do it, and fine. Like, my wedding planner says nobody does it anymore, which, by the way, a lot of people don't do it anymore. Yeah. It's true. That's a true story. You know.
Yeah.
So wedding planner can definitely help with that.
Cool. Perfect. So those of you just joining us, we're here with Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events at the Whitmore House in Washington, D.C., talking about what happens after your Just Said Yes moment. We just talked about some special considerations for same-sex couples. What about as same-sex couples are building their wedding team and searching for vendors, sort of what's the advice that you give?
Yeah, so I think we're lucky in the DC area where it's very open-minded. There are a lot of people who have no issue working with same-sex couples.
Right.
You definitely still have some. It exists. I know of them.
Yep. We've heard stories.
Yeah, for sure. And across the country, you have this happening. So one of the things that I want to encourage same-sex couples, if you've decided not to work with a full-service planner and you're finding all your vendors on your own, first of all, use resources like gayweddings.com. There are a number of different online platforms where you can go and find vendors who are saying, yes, I am here for you. I want to help you. I am an inclusive business. So look at those resources. Don't go looking just like randomly on Instagram because you don't really know what you're going to find there.
Right.
Start in a curated location, right? Like that's so fantastic that exists. Sure didn't exist when I was younger and starting in weddings. You know, you had no way to do that. And then the other thing is that you want to make sure that your vendors are using inclusive language. And I think, you know, as a gay woman, I hone in. When I say bride and groom, I'm like, oh, well, they're going to expect my wife to be a man.
Right.
And I'm just not, it makes me feel funny. Right? Like,
I'm
not like, oh, you're a bad person. It just doesn't make me feel like I belong there. So if your vendor, one, has photos of same-sex couples on their website, whether they're a photographer or another vendor, then you know that they have done same-sex weddings before. They don't have to you don't have to come out to your vendors, first of all. That's another topic that I think is really important. I, as a wedding planner, like to say, oh, the grooms are looking for XYZ. But you don't have to come out to your vendors. You already had to do that at some other point in your life. Like this is not the process to have to do it again. So if you're looking for that inclusive language, you're probably going to be met with that throughout the process. And it's going to make you feel more comfortable and more at home and more welcome.
Perfect.
Cool.
And the Whitmore House is also an LGBTQ friendly venue as well, right?
Yeah, I love the Whitmore House. They have so many options. They can do weddings up to 175, 200 people.
Wow.
But they have really great spaces to do small weddings as well. So I don't know if you want to get up and we can just
let's
look a little bit.
Look around.
So we're down in the salon, and it leads in to a bigger ballroom. But I love this venue. It's historic. It was built in I'm going to look at my notes. 1892.
Wow.
So it was built as a personal home. I mean, when you look at the chandeliers and you can see behind us and the ceilings and all the details in this building, it's just amazing. And it creates, I mean, we're like sitting in a living room. It's like a really cozy, homey place. It's this beautiful historic building. It also is home to the Women's National Democratic Club.
Cool.
So we are
rah-rah.
we are definitely rah-rah. And we walked around the building earlier and we saw all our pictures of Hillary. And, you know, it's Eleanor Roosevelt used to give radio addresses upstairs. They have a gorgeous library that's beautiful for small ceremonies. There's a beautiful outdoor terrace space as well. So when you're looking for a venue, for example, and you want to find an LGBTQ friendly venue, Whitmore House is on Gay Weddings, and you can go to Gay Weddings and search venues and say, I have 120 people, and Whitmore House will pop up.
So what's the benefit of a venue like this? Because it's not like a sort of a big open space. So there's a lot you can do in terms of like moving room to room, and maybe like what would you kind of do? Like if it's a venue like this?
So depending on the size of your wedding, and Allison, who's one of the catering managers here, sales managers here, we talked about all these different options. Because when I walk into a space, I'm like, oh, I can see the ceremony in front of the fireplace, or like, what if we did cocktail hour in here? And so there's a lot of different options depending on the size of your wedding. So they have a ballroom back there that you can do a ceremony, and then you go upstairs and you mingle throughout the rooms for cocktail hour. And then you come back downstairs and the room's been flipped for dinner and dancing. Or you can move into the salon for, you know, coffee or a custom tea bar or something like that, dessert bar, something later in the evening. So you can get really creative with the spaces and like add really personal touches to things.
Cool. For those of you who are just joining us, we are at the Whitmore House in downtown Washington, D.C. with Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events. She's giving us a mini tour of this gorgeous historic mansion that has been turned into an LGBTQ-friendly wedding venue. We had a question from the viewers, and if you all have questions, please put them in the comments, and Sarah will definitely answer them for you. Tisha asked, sometimes venues can have fees that you may not know about upfront. How do you negotiate or set up installment payments with your venue?
Yeah, so you can always ask if a payment, so if a venue gives you a payment plan that doesn't work for you for some reason, usually a deposit is going to be non-negotiable, except maybe in a case where you're like, I can give you 10% today and I'll give you the rest in 3 days, something like that. You might be able to do that, and this is all case-by-case basis, right?
Yeah.
So, but you can always say, listen, I would like to make continual payments. I don't want to do half now, half later.
Right.
Yes, can I get the deposit now, but then can I give you money throughout the process so at the end I'm not stuck with this huge final bill when I'm making all my final payments. Right? A wedding planner can help you with discounts and things like that at times. Yeah. But one thing about the wedding industry is that people have set their prices very intentionally. Yeah. And so it's like you don't go into Old Navy and ask them for 20% off a sweater, right? So you do want to be careful in those conversations, but there's definitely people, if you're upfront and honest with them about what your situation is, good vendors are going to be willing to have that conversation with you, for sure.
Cool. And what about the fees? Is that something that you should sort of look through the contract, or even is it okay to just ask, like, what fees does this include? What might I expect at the end?
Yeah, I mean, just a basic rundown of some of the fees, for example, at a venue that you could expect depending on the venue. Some venues are going to have a room rental fee. Okay. Some are going to have an additional fee if you're having your ceremony there. Okay. So maybe it's $1,500 to have your reception, and it's additional $500 because you're adding on an hour for your ceremony. So there might be ceremony fee. There's going to be tax. There might be a service fee or a labor fee for setup. And then there might be a food and beverage minimum. So if the venue has its own caterer, then you might be paying a $20,000 food and beverage minimum plus service charge and tax, as opposed to or in addition to that rental for this space. Some venues also will charge a catering fee. So if they allow you to bring a caterer in, there will be a certain percentage of that catering bill that is due to the venue as a fee. Okay, got it. So those are some of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, that as you visit venues, as you're doing your site visits, you can just be like, do you have a setup fee? Do you have a ceremony fee? Do you have or what are the extra hour fees? You know, things like that. Yeah.
And we hear a lot about couples who are kind of choosing maybe like off-season or not Saturday weddings because
it's less expensive.
Less expensive. So our venues kind of included in that service category of you can kind of discount if it's a Friday or a Sunday.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of venues will have discounted food and beverage minimums or rental rates for weekday, Friday, and Sunday events. Some don't. Again, it's a case-by-case basis because some venues, for example, a restaurant might not have a discount on a Friday evening because if they shut down on a Friday or they shut down on a Saturday, it's the same amount of money that they have to make in order to rent that space out. So that might not be the right occasion. But on a Sunday or on a Monday, they're usually closed. Then they're going to be like, oh, well, we're happy to come in and make some money. Exactly. Like we could sit empty, or we could have you have your wedding here. Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. So those of you who are just joining us, this is Gay Weddings Live at the Whitmore House, which is a historic mansion, LGBTQ-friendly wedding venue here in downtown Washington, D.C. We're joined with planner extraordinaire Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events, and she's giving us kind of a mini tour of the venue as well as talking to us about what we should do when we first get engaged and start wedding planning. So we talked about budget a little earlier, but something else that we do have questions, we get questions on a lot, is when it's two brides or two grooms, how do you kind of figure out who pays for the wedding?
Yeah, so that goes back a little bit to what we talked about with budget, where we're not seeing people split things up that way anymore, right? So it's important to have a realistic conversation about finances anyways.
Exactly. You're gonna be married.
Exactly. And that is, it's a tough conversation. Like my wife will tell you, I am not good at talking about finances. I'm like, okay, right? I just shut down. So, but it's an important conversation to have about, listen, you make X amount of money. I make X amount of money. I've saved this. I've set this aside. And here's where I thought that money would go.
Right. And
here's where you thought that your money was going.
Yep.
So what does that look like combined? And then also, is anyone planning on contributing?
Right.
And if your friends and family don't offer up the information on whether they plan on contributing,
right.
It's fine to bring it up in a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we were talking about our wedding budget, and based on what we were looking at being able to spend, we can do X, Y, Z, and see if somebody chimes in with, oh, well, I wanted to buy your wedding dress, or we were thinking we could host a welcome reception or
right.
something like that.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. Those of you who are just joining us, it's Gay Weddings Live at the Whitmore House in downtown Washington, D.C. with Sarah from Sincerely Pete Events. We're wrapping up a really cool, informative conversation about what to do after your hashtag Just Said Yes moment. So, last question we have for you
yes.
is, what are the big wedding trends of 2017? What should couples be kind of like looking out for or asking their planner about?
Yeah, so the color of the year, Pantone's color of the year this year is greenery, which I think is perfectly
yes.
in line with where the wedding industry was going and
exactly.
the event decor was going last year anyways. See lots of garlands as table decorations, lots of people veering away from white flowers and blush roses and things like that,
right.
and really going towards these lush green or even simpler greenery. The other thing is that I think people are moving away from florals as their main decor.
Interesting.
So I see lots of candles, I see lots of architectural elements being brought in,
yep.
And sort of not removing florals altogether, but sort of making them accents to other types of decor.
Right.
And then another trend that I see in the industry, and I work in this, so I am excited to see it happening, is destination weddings.
Yeah.
I think as people are getting married older and as people are becoming more independent, that they are finding that they don't have to follow these traditional norms. And when that happens, they start thinking outside the box.
Right.
And that takes them to Italy or
where
to
she
Spain.
just got married. Exactly.
Yes. Or to Hawaii or
yeah.
Puerto Rico or, someplace different that just feels more like them.
Right.
And so I definitely think that more and more people are really jumping on the destination wedding bandwagon
yeah.
and finding that they can do something that's this amazing experience for the same amount of money that they would be spending
right.
on a wedding anyways.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for
yes.
joining us. Thank you all for joining us on our live broadcast. We are here from the Whitmore House in Washington, D.C. This is Gay Weddings Live. And if you have more questions for Sarah, feel free to put them in the comments and we'll definitely
I'll answer them for sure.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.